This is the regular meeting of the Board of Education for April 2014. We are meeting at the Fordyce Building. Would you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll, please.
Mrs. Lysy.
Here.
Mrs. Sudar.
Here.
Mrs. Thomas.
Here.
Mrs. Van Hoek.
Yeah, here.
Mrs. DeAngelis.
Here.
All members are present.
Thank you. Do we have any revisions, additions, or deletions?
We do have one revision, and that will be item number 13. It was placed at your in front of you, and it is approved payments from grants.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to adopt the minutes from March 3rd, 10th, and 24th?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Sudar, second.
Second.
By Mrs. DeAngelis. Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Sudar.
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas.
Yes.
Mrs. Van Hoek.
Yes.
Mrs. DeAngelis.
Yes.
Mrs. Lysy.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, there will not be a legislative liaison report tonight, but we do have a student liaison report. Mrs. DeAngelis.
Okay, first of all, welcome back from spring break. I hope everybody had a fun week and was refreshed and ready to go and ready for everything to finish up the school year. Next thing I'd like to do is do a shout out or congratulations to Euclid High School Big Show. Everybody who was involved in Big Show, it was a phenomenal event, and I think it was very good for the community and the schools and everything involved. So I'd like to tell everybody thank you for doing such a great job with the performance. And then remember, Euclid schools are closed this Friday, April 18th. Another reminder is kindergarten registration has started for the 2014-2015 school year. Please call 797-2933 to schedule your appointment for registration. They are also doing a red carpet event for all families that are at the Early Learning Center, and that is going to be Wednesday night, April 23rd, 2014. And I believe all the packets have already been sent home with the students for registration. But if you have any questions, you can still call 797-2933, and they'll be more than glad to help you. A couple of upcoming events. Thursday night, April 17th, is the Euclid High School Annual Film Slam, and it's being held at the Lakeshore 7 Cinema on Lakeshore Boulevard, and it starts at 6:30. And this is where the students in the English class present their movies that they've made this year. It's usually a very nice event, and it's very talented what the students do. And then also Wednesday, May 7th at 7 o'clock at Euclid High School Auditorium is the annual spring choir concert. That's always a very nice event also. Come out and support the students at the high school. And then I want to say congratulations to Bluestone Elementary School. They held a Pennies for Patients fundraising drive last month. Students raised $1,256.11 over a 2-week period to benefit the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. Students, parents, and staff members really got involved and made a difference for beating their goal of $1,000. And the students at Chardon Hills participated in the Lighted Up Blue event for autism awareness by wearing blue and reading about autism. One other event at Euclid High School that's coming up is April 24th. It's the band concert. So come out and support the students here in Euclid and see all the talent that's here. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any visitor comments relative to the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on then to reports and recommendations of the treasurer, Mr. Bassett.
Thank you, Madam President. Item 8 is a resolution to approve financial data as submitted to the board, and I recommend approval.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Sudar, second.
Second.
By Mrs. DeAngelis. Are there any questions or comments? Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Thomas.
Yes.
Mrs. Van Hoek.
Yes.
Mrs. DeAngelis.
Yes.
Mrs. Lysy.
Yes.
Mrs. Sudar.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. And item number 9 is a resolution to award a depository bid to U.S. Bank, and I recommend approval.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Sudar, second.
Second.
By Mrs. DeAngelis. Are there any questions or comments?
If I may, real quickly, typically we issue depository agreements once every 5 years. We went out of sequence with U.S. Bank because we are now would like to use U.S. Bank as our investment paying agent and trustee. They offer the best rate in town. We previously did not have a depository agreement with them, so this is necessary.
Do they still have a brand charity equipment?
I believe
So
so.
there's one on 200 and one in
Dave's.
Dave's,
Okay,
which is open 7 days a week.
7 days a week, okay.
Check on Sunday.
All right. I knew that they had one up on
I'm the
Lake Shore.
treasurer of a lot of organizations. I can tell you all the bank schedules and when they're open.
Okay. All right. Any other questions or comments? Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Van Hoen.
Yes.
Mrs. DeAngelis.
Yes.
Mrs. Lysy.
Yes.
Mrs. Sudar.
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas.
Yes.
Excuse me. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Okay. No good information that, suddenly we're going to get millions of dollars extra, huh?
No, we didn't strike oil,
Oh,
didn't strike gold. I'm looking at the gold sign across the street, didn't strike gold either.
no. Okay. All right. We'll try. Thank you. And we'll move on then to reports and recommendations of the superintendent. Mr. Bells.
Thanks, Madam President, members of the board. I'm going to ask Sue Maroney to go to the podium, who will walk us through our personnel legislation.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. Madam President, members of the board, on behalf of the superintendent, I present to you item number 10, consider certified staff 1314, and ask for your approval.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Sudar, second.
Second.
By Mrs. DeAngelis. Are there any questions or comments? Call the roll, please.
Mrs. DeAngelis.
Yes.
Mrs. Lysy.
Yes.
Mrs. Sudar.
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas.
Yes.
Mrs. Van Hoen.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Item number 11 is considered classified staff for 2013-14, and ask for your approval.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Sudar, second.
Second.
By Mrs. DeAngelis. Are there any questions or comments?
Madam President, if I may, just for the board's and for Mrs. Thomas's knowledge, what we normally do is we will lay individuals off and then we rehire them back in June based off of our needs. So this
You're one
represents...
early. You're one early. Right. It's okay.
Yes, I'm
Just
I'm
excited to get your part in there.
I'm excited to
Okay,
get to
got
that part.
Okay. Are there any other questions or comments? Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Lysy.
Yes.
Mrs. Sudar.
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas.
Yes.
Mrs. Van Hoen.
Yes.
Mrs. DeAngelis.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Item number 12 is consider classified staff reduction in force, and ask for your approval.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
So
Moved by Mrs. Lysy, second.
Second.
Let me give it to Mrs. Thomas.
That's fine.
And you already have my explanation, so I'm not...
Yeah.
Well, go ahead. Did you want to explain it?
No, just that we, and I was early, but what we do is we will lay those individuals off and then we hire them based off of our needs, so it gives us an opportunity to evaluate where our specific needs are. So I just want to make sure you were aware of what that looks like, because it may look as if we're releasing those individuals, but we're releasing them with the understanding that we're going to
Bring it back, okay.
yeah, based off of our needs.
Needs, okay. Understand, thank you.
Also, if I remember right, when we first started doing this years and years ago, it was also so that we didn't pay unemployment over the summer,
Yes.
Oh, okay.
because otherwise we would be forced to pay unemployment to them. And as much as we love them, we have financial reasons that we need to do it.
Absolutely.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Sudar.
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas.
Yes.
Mrs. Van Hoen.
Yes.
Mrs. DeAngelis.
Yes.
Mrs. Lysy.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Item number 13 is to consider grant payments, and ask for your approval.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Sudar, second.
Second.
By Mrs. DeAngelis. Are there any questions or comments?
I would like to make one comment, and I think I'm on the right section now. And this is related to Mrs. DeAngelis' question regarding the student-teacher payments, and just wanted you to know that we are in the process of having conversation with Cleveland State to be able to address that. There's been, for the board, just so you know, what happens in the district is that teachers didn't get a stipend for student teachers. And so what we're doing is looking at how we can do that and make that a little bit more efficient, and looking at a different way of being able to look at that compensation. So Mrs. Maroney has been in conversation with Cleveland State to look at how we can address that in a different way. And the issue becomes there's payment and there's also the job responsibilities of that teacher. So trying to not have those be convoluted, trying to make that a smooth transition. So we're working through that. We'll be able to have a proposal from Cleveland State or what we work with how we're going to address that moving forward, beginning with the next school year. But we felt like this was already in place. We need to honor what was in place but we're looking at making some changes and making some adjustments.
I have two questions with this. First one is, we only had 3 teachers who had student teachers that are eligible for this payments from the fall semester, I think it,
That's correct.
so only, in the whole district, only 3 students?
Yeah, and-
Wow, I was kind of surprised it was that low.
Yes and no, and I'll tell you why I'm not that surprised. Part of it has to do with the uncertainty of OTES and being able to have people in that classroom and that teacher being a teacher of record, making sure that the students were learning. So that really, I mean, I think until that gets all worked out and how you then deal with that, I think we're going to have probably teachers that are a little bit more apprehensive than they have been regarding having student teachers.
Want to explain what OTES
That
is
makes
for the
sense.
public?
And can I add one other thing as well? We pay once it's certified through the university. So there may be, and we don't have very many student-teacher placements, but there may be another 1 or 2 that maybe Cleveland State hasn't certified yet. Once they certify and send us the money, that's when we process it. So I can check to see if there are any other stragglers.
Explain
Thank you. I
OTES.
hate to use acronyms and not explain. Ohio Teacher Evaluation System is OTES, and what that is that's the new evaluative system that we're using to measure student performance and measure teacher performance. And so there's a student growth component to that, which then becomes reflective of that teacher of record. So if I'm a teacher in the classroom, I have to be really careful regarding my student teacher, because whatever that growth model or whatever the growth of that student is still going to be a part of my evaluation. So I want to make sure as a teacher that I have someone in there can help and do what they need to do. So they're a little bit more selective than we may have been in the past, because there's a direct correlation between that student-teacher work and the actual teacher of record in the classroom. So.
And the universities are looking at that as well. They are all moving toward a co-teaching model versus the old way where a student teacher would come in and take full control of the classroom for so many weeks. So that's part of what we've been working with the universities to get an actual plan in place so that we know what the teachers, the cooperating teachers, as well as the student teachers' impact will be in the classroom.
Yeah. One other point I just want to make, just so the board's understanding of this too. Usually in districts, and Mrs. Maroney, we've had a conversation regarding this. Usually what happens is when you have a student teacher, there's usually a reciprocal agreement with the college or university for credit or being able to take classes in exchange for that student teaching opportunity. There are districts that do what we do, not as many as work through the reciprocal agreement. So we're looking at how we can do that, to have not a money exchange, but be able to have an exchange of service in kind to be able to address that need and be able to help the teacher. So that's part of the conversation.
Okay, and then my,
Ms. Maroney, do students who are looking for student teaching positions, do they go through your department first?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, the placement office at the university comes through us.
It's the university.
Yeah,
Sorry?
the university comes to us, it's not the individual. They may make a request for Euclid City Schools, and, sometimes they do contact a teacher that they may know.
That's what I'm
But
wondering.
the formal request has
Has
to
to go
come
through-
through the university to us.
Very good.
my other question here with this is, I noticed on our revised sheet, the rates are lower than what was on the original one. Is that to compensate for the benefit for the STRS?
Yes.
That's what I was thinking.
The university gives us X dollars, and then we have to pay the fringes, the retirement, workers' comp, and all of that. So that's actually the piece that they will be receiving.
Right, okay.
What is the last school? It says Western.
Western Governors Institution or something like that. We get requests from many universities. That particular one may have been a parent within the community. They're taking licensure and they want to stay within the community.
Okay.
So we try to accommodate when we can, but now that we've got these cooperative agreements with the universities, we have to make sure that we have our standard protocol as well. So that's another piece blended in with this. How far will we reach out beyond Cleveland State, Notre Dame? Will we go to these, one-time universities? I don't know.
Okay. And then the other question I had, I think I know the answer, but I noticed that under the parent education programs that there's a lot of different amounts for people to get paid.
It's a standard, I believe, $15 per hour for all of them, and that's based upon how many hours each one put in.
Okay.
So it will vary based upon that.
Okay. I figured that was it, but I just wanted to check. Okay, any other questions or comments? Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Thomas?
Yes.
Mrs. Van Hoen?
Yes.
Mrs. De Angelis?
Yes.
Mrs. Lysy.
Yes.
Mrs. Sudar?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
And the last one for personnel is item number 14, consider certified personnel 2014-15, and ask for your approval.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Sudar, second.
Second.
By Mrs. De Angelis. Are there any questions or comments? Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Van Hoen?
Yes.
Mrs. De Angelis?
Yes.
Mrs. Lysy.
Yes.
Mrs. Sudar?
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
That would be it. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 15 is to consider approval and ratification of the final payment for performance of contract at Shoreview Elementary, and we're asking for approval.
Is there a motion? Moved by Mrs. Sudar, second.
Second.
By Mrs. De Angelis. Are there any questions or comments? Are we done with Shoreview's payments for everything? Not quite, okay. Thank you. Call the roll, please.
Mrs. De Angelis?
Yes.
Mrs. Lysy.
Yes.
Mrs. Sudar?
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas?
Yes.
Mrs. Van Hoen?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Item 16 is to consider accept the donation from Pamela Young for Carlo Robello cello, and we're asking for approval.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Sudar, second.
Second.
By Mrs. De Angelis. Are there any questions or comments? She'll be appropriately thanked. Once again, I'll put in my plug that if you have instruments laying around your house that aren't getting used, we'd be happy to take a look at them and accept them into our music program. Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Lysy.
Yes.
Mrs. Sudar?
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas?
Yes.
Mrs. Van Hoen?
Yes.
Mrs. De Angelis?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Item 17 is to consider 3 field trips for approval, and they are the Euclid School Cisco networking students, the Euclid High School students that will be taking a tour to Eastern Michigan University, and Euclid High School culinary arts students, and we're asking for approval.
Okay. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Sudar, second.
Second.
By Mrs. De Angelis. It's exciting that 2 of those are for competitions, so we
Yeah.
wish those students luck. Good luck.
The culinary arts students finished second, I believe, in the first or second. Yeah, they finished. They won the regional competition, and so their participation in this contest, they have 2 students that will be participating in the state, and then the other group, the Cisco networking group, will be attending the National Business Professionals of America, and they'll be competing against schools across the country. So both of those are really exciting. And then the third one, the Eastern Michigan tour, that's a part of the College Now piece that we have at the high school, being able to give kids exposure to different colleges and universities, and it's a great opportunity for our kids to be able to see. There's also, as I was reading through it, a student leadership component where they're actually going to be a part of a forum and actually get a chance to network and work through some leadership activities while they're at Eastern Michigan. So it's a really good opportunity for our students to get some exposure that they wouldn't necessarily have access to.
Wonderful. Are there any other questions or comments?
I have a comment. I know 2 groups just returned from some wonderful opportunities. Our Euclid High School marching band was at Disney World. They did an outstanding job of marching down Main Street. I think everyone in this community can be very proud of them. And our Culture Club just returned from New York City. And these field trips and opportunities are just, they're so meaningful to our kids. And I just wanted to pass on that there's 2 successful opportunities for our kids. That I can personally say that Disney was an outstanding experience. So good.
And also that the students raised the money to go down those kinds of field
Yes.
trips, so.
Lots of candy bars and car washes, and we had a student that raised $570 for her trip plus $165 spending by selling candy bars and Krispy Kreme donuts. So a lot of work, but she did it. So.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Sudar?
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas?
Yes.
Mrs. Van Hoen?
Yes.
Mrs. De Angelis?
Yes.
Mrs. Lysy.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Item number 18 is to consider the approval of our county service agreement, and we're asking for approval.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Sudar, second.
Second.
By Mrs. De Angelis. Are there any questions or comments?
Just a little,
Right.
yeah, sure. Just a little background just on this, and what we're able to do is to use our state foundation money, it goes to ESC, and we're able to use that to help fund some of our personnel or programming. So we get that funding from the ESC, and it's an opportunity for us to do some things in a little bit of a creative manner. And so what this does for us is provide us opportunities to not take the actual money from general fund, but use it in a different way to be able to provide services for students and staff.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? We do make good use of that money.
We do.
Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Thomas?
Yes.
Mrs. Van Hoen?
Yes.
Mrs. De Angelis?
Yes.
Mrs. Lysy.
Yes.
Mrs. Sudar?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Item 19 is to consider and approve our fee schedule for 2014-15, and we're asking for approval.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Sudar, second.
Second.
By Mrs. Thomas. Any questions or comments?
I have a question. I know every year we approve these, how much of these fees do we collect, percentage-wise?
That's a really good question. I asked the same question today. So really what happens with our fees is we collect about a third of those fees. But when you look at this in a holistic format, 67% of the people who actually in our district are eligible through free and reduced to have their fees waived. So our ceiling really is about 33% of what we could actually collect of that. So we collect about a third of that figure. And through time, through graduation, we get some and we waive some, but as we go through, we collect about a third of that number. But when you look at it, we only have a ceiling of about a third of that.
Okay, now, if I don't pay my fees in third grade, don't pay my fees in whatever grade, does it follow through with me until I leave the district? And when you leave the district, it's into your transcripts, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, we stay
There's a
with that.
misconception that we just, at the end of the school year, if you don't pay it, we don't go after it.
Yeah. I think where people may get things confused is when you look at the lunch piece, we're going to feed every student here. So they may not have had it, but we're going to do what we need to do to feed them, and we take some of the hit there. But the fees, we do hold parents to that, and they have to, if they stay in the district or they leave, in order for them to get the information they need, they have to have those fees paid up.
Okay.
I do, okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, just one quick question. I see under high school that we have 4 classes that are in bold: engineering, astronomy, dual enrollment in biology, and dual enrollment in environmental. Are those new classes that we'll be offering in the 2014-2015 school year?
Thank you, Dr. Smiley.
Sorry, Mrs. Lysy, I caught 3 of them. 2 of them were dual enrollment, 1 was astronomy. What was the
Yeah,
first?
dual enrollment biology, dual enrollment environmental, and then engineering. So they're in bold, and so I'm wondering if those are going to be new additions to the curriculum for the 2014-15.
Two of them are additions. The 2 dual enrollment classes are additions. The astronomy class has been in place, as well as the engineering connections class, which would enter its 2nd year next year.
I'd say that was first year last year.
Right.
Is it that they raised their fees?
Yes.
Is that why it's
That's
bold?
why it's in bold.
Well, the fee for the previous year was the same price.
Oh.
Maybe it's a new fee? Didn't have a fee before? I have a question regarding the 2 dual enrollment classes here. If you take post-secondary, there's no fee for the student, but now if they take a class that's dual enrollment, there's a $250 fee?
Well, if they go post-secondary enrollment, we don't have to provide any supplies in our own classrooms. So that would be the reason that we have.
Because the state's paying the community college or the state school or whatever. I'm just curious to ask, why
Well,
those fees?
$250
I'm just
and
curious
$5
if
is
it's
very
$2
reasonable, I think, in
Yeah.
terms of fees.
I'm just asking, why is there a fee with a dual enrollment course when you get the same credit as you would be in a post-secondary?
I think
So you don't have
that,
to pay for transportation to
Yeah.
get there.
and I don't know this,
Yeah.
but I'm just inferring that they have costs that they have to pass on, and I believe that they're passing those on. Now, whether, the validity of that, we can question that, but I think that's probably where that's coming from.
$250 is almost not,
$2.50.
I know,
it's almost not worth the effort to collect the money. That's why I was figuring this all out.
bringing it up as a positive, actually. I wasn't bringing it up as a question.
I'd be happy with the specifics and
That's
get back
the
to
only
the
thing I
board.
can infer
It
from
just
that.
seems $250 is not worth the effort to collect it.
I can get these specifics tomorrow from our science department chair and send them.
Could be for an ID, maybe, student ID or something like that, I don't know.
Well, I'm just
If
encouraged that we're
special
adding additional classes to our curriculum, especially in the dual enrollment, so these kids can benefit from a college course without having to leave our campus, and I think it's tremendous. And at $2.50, I think it's a bargain.
And the Engineering Connections class is part of a STEM initiative as well, to
Right,
make
and
sure
they-
that we're
Right. and they-
providing that curriculum to our students.
And I was very encouraged to see that Mrs. McGarry brought them to the bridge competition too with her AP Physics students, and one of the STEM Engineering Connection students took first place,
Right.
which I think is very good. So
She's had a great partnership with Arbor Elementary as well. So
Yeah.
students have spent a good amount of time there and fostering the interest in younger students as well, so that they will look forward to being part of that program when they're in high school.
So I guess I'm just saying keep up the good work.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Smiley.
I'm just putting in my 2 cents that I've said over the years, and it's, as our free and reduced population keeps increasing, I did ask our treasurer if he could look into seeing the cost versus benefit of collecting this, since we have so few students anymore that we are actually required to pay fees. And being aware that there are people who may not sign up for free and reduced lunches, but are very much eligible for it, or they're just over the limit for their particular family, but yet it would still be a struggle for those fees. And I know that it doesn't sound like a lot, but when you multiply it times 3, 4, or 5 kids, then it starts adding up. And for some people, they're really living paycheck to paycheck. So I did ask Mr. Bassick if he could look, and just, for future reference, maybe another year or so, we can look at whether it pays to keep those fees going.
Is there a chance that families who could present a hardship case, could they be waived? Like if you're saying some families that might have 2 or 3 or 4 students within the district who might live paycheck to paycheck and are unable to pay those fees, do we allow for some sort of a petition or a hardship case to be considered and waived?
We really don't have a formal process.
We don't have a formal process.
And that can get a little dicey, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of gray area. So we've tried to stick, at least up until now, stick to the free and reduced threshold.
Okay.
And that's why that number, that 67% number, if everyone did what they needed to do with that, with free and reduced, we'd only have 33% of our population that would actually be paying full fees. So,
And then it becomes almost a fairness issue there, whether they're paying the fees.
Are we still withholding report cards for the parents of kids that don't?
Yeah, after the first term, yeah.
we're trying to work through, that one, it's, I'm somewhat uncomfortable with it, but I understand what we have to do, because we on one hand, want parents to know the progress of their student. On the other hand, when we're saying we want to, so I struggle, and we work through that with parents and trying to at least have a conversation about how we can kind of come to some middle ground and be able to get them what they need. I've had several conversations with parents. In one case, parent really was eligible for the free and reduced. We just had not gone through the steps and done what we needed to do, so we're trying to make sure we do that. But I'm not real comfortable with that. But I understand, trying to balance it, but it almost seems as if we're cutting our own throats because we're not giving them the information they need in order to be able to help the child. So it's a tough one.
So we'll wait another year. Any other questions or comments? Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Van Hoen.
Yes.
Mrs. De Angelis.
Yes.
Mrs. Lysy.
Yes.
Mrs. Sudar.
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Item 20 is to consider to authorize the summer school fees for approval, and we're asking for consideration for approval.
Okay, is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Sudar, second by Mrs. De Angelis. Are there any questions or comments for this?
I would just like to make one comment regarding this, in the fact that for the public and then also for the board, that we do not, for those students based off of our third grade reading guarantee, there is no charge, and so the intervention piece we have in place for free, so there isn't a fee associated with that. I just wanted to make sure that the board was aware, and also the public's aware, that we're not doing that. We want to do what we can to help our students read.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Do we have any ideas how many second and third graders will be participating in that intervention?
We've made some efforts, and yes, Mrs. Miller. I was doing that because I was getting ready for you. We've made some inferences, and Mrs. Miller and I have had lots of conversation, along with the treasurer, about trying to put this together, so I'm going to let her get specific about what we've done.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I can speak to the preliminary numbers. We are actually inviting more students that we absolutely need to invite. So right now our plan is to invite third grade students that did not pass the fall OAA, and we're also still not on track for the winter benchmark. There's a good possibility that some of those students might still pass the spring OAA, but our assumption is that they still would have a gap in rating that we would rather correct in summer intervention rather than allowing them to continue through the grades and still have that gap. So our preliminary number right now is around 215 students that we will be inviting. Depending on how many registrations we get back, we may also open it up to some second grade students, and that will depend on numbers and finances and, you know, where we're at that time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Will those parents be told that we're inviting them, but this is really critical for them to participate? I mean, inviting sounds, well, we would like it if you come, but this is really a critical thing that they need to do.
Yes. And the way that we're going to be doing the registration forms and the letter is those will be going to the classroom teachers. Each classroom teacher will get a list of the students that are getting that invitation, and they will also have the opportunity to speak to parents and encourage them from their end. So instead of it just coming from us here at Fordyce, we figured it would be more proactive to go through the individual classroom teachers so that they can see, you know, Johnny was invited and didn't send in his form yet, you know, Susie has, so that they can call parents and really make sure that all of those students are attending.
Is there, would there be a way to have the parents have to formally say that they're rejecting the help?
Yeah.
I guess, so that if it ever comes back on us, that, oh, look, you know, you didn't do something for this student, that we would have the ability to show that we made the effort, but the parent chose to not have them participate.
We'll definitely have something in place to show that we extended that and they did not partake in that opportunity.
Okay. I just think that's going to be important in case there's a liability issue down the road, that we can show our due diligence on following through on what we needed to do. 215 is a lot of students.
It is.
Yeah, what's really helpful, for Madam President, members of the board, what's really helpful for us is in the fact that we can't do, when you look at the intervention, you can't do whatever they achieved or whatever they were doing in their traditional classroom. It has to be something different. The summer school opportunity is an opportunity for us to do something different. So if they take that opportunity away from us, we will have documentation that we offered this to try to do that. They chose not to do it, so we have to possibly do something else, or maybe do something that looks the same because they didn't have that opportunity and didn't take advantage of it. So.
Well, I can just see down the road that, you know, the state coming back and saying, you know, you didn't do it or you didn't make enough of an effort or something, and so I'd like to have that so that we show, yes, we did. We made that effort and, you know, we did these two things and got no response or whatever. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Mrs. Miller.
Any other questions or comments? Call the roll, please.
Mrs. DeAngelis.
Yes.
Mrs. Lysy.
Yes.
Mrs. Sudar.
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas.
Yes.
Mrs. Van Hoen.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Item 21 is to consider and proclaim May 12th through the 16th as Teacher Appreciation Week, and I'm asking for approval.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Sudar, second.
Second.
By Mrs. DeAngelis.
The only comment I want to make on that one is that teacher appreciation is every day. You know that. So we appreciate our teachers every day. We just make emphasis of it on May 12th through 16th. Buildings will be doing some things specifically to address this with their teachers.
And one of the nicest things that
parents and students can do is send a note to the teacher and tell them how much they appreciate their efforts. Okay, call the roll, please.
Mrs. Lysy.
Yes.
Mrs. Sudar.
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas.
Yes.
Mrs. Van Hoen.
Yes.
Mrs. De Angelis.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Item 22 is to consider and proclaim Administrative Professional Day on April 23rd, and we're asking for approval.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Sudar, second.
Second.
By Mrs. De Angelis. Are there any questions or comments here? Other than we certainly appreciate all those people who fulfill those roles, and I noticed that your administrative professional isn't here tonight, but
Yes.
we definitely appreciate her.
I
All
was letting her know I appreciate her by telling her she didn't have to come tonight. That was my appreciation, and we do, and they do a great job of supporting all of us, so we definitely want to make mention of that.
Thank you. And yours as well, Mr. Bassick, because the ones that we interact the most with are either your department or your administrative
Absolutely.
assistant, so we do appreciate them. Okay, call the roll, please.
Mrs. Sudar.
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas.
Yes.
Mrs. Van Hoen.
Yes.
Mrs. De Angelis.
Yes.
Mrs. Lysy.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Item 23 is to consider and proclaim National School Child Food Service Employee Appreciation Day. That's a mouthful. And I'm asking for approval.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Sudar, second. By Mrs. De Angelis.
And I do know there's some specific recognition for our food service workers and all of that, so we do appreciate that.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Thomas.
Yes.
Mrs. Van Hoen.
Yes.
Mrs. De Angelis.
Yes.
Mrs. Lysy.
Yes.
Mrs. Sudar.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Item 24 is to consider and proclaim Euclid Reads, and we're asking for approval.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Sudar, second.
Second.
By Mrs. De Angelis.
Yeah, just a little background on this one. You heard Mrs. Miller talk about what we're doing with the third grade reading guarantee, so we really emphasize reading on a daily basis. What we do here, April is National Poetry Month and School Library Media Month, and then May is Get Caught Reading Month, so we really try to emphasize that. And then May 12th to 16th is the 36th Annual Right to Read Week celebration. So those are the three components of Euclid Reads and what that's all about, and I'm aware of what we used to do here with the library and some of the things that occurred there, so we're trying to emulate some of that, but individual buildings will have specific activities related to these particular items that I just described.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Van Hoen.
Yes.
Mrs. De Angelis.
Yes.
Mrs. Lysy.
Yes.
Mrs. Sudar.
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. And item 25 is to consider and authorize the Ohio High School Athletic Association conference membership, and we're asking for approval.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Sudar, second.
Second.
By Mrs. De Angelis.
Just a little background, Dr. Smilek, Mr. Higley, along with a couple of students, and did a great job in making a presentation a few weeks ago to really sell Euclid to the conference. And we were selected as a member of the conference. If you're aware, the Great Lakes League is changing, and so what we want to do is get out in front of that. And so we're now a part of the 8-member conference. And the teams that are included there are Mentor, Solon, Shaker Heights, Strongsville, Brunswick, Medina, and Elyria, along with us. And so we will start play in the new conference in, is it 15-16, Pat? 15-16. So beginning fall 15-16 gives us a year to get ready. But a lot of work went into that. And with my work on the Ohio High School Athletic Association and seeing this across the state, those conversations and the meetings that you have, those aren't necessarily easy, and a lot of times it doesn't happen, and I just have to give people a lot of credit for what they did. They really did a nice job in selling it, and as I talked to Mr. Higley, the students are the ones that really got us over the top, because they really sold Euclid. They were adamant about how they can compete and all of that, so I just want everybody who was involved, I just thought did a great job.
Mr. Bell, could you repeat the schools again?
Sure. Mentor,
Yep.
Solon, and I'll have this in the board report too for you this week. Shaker Heights, Strongsville, Brunswick, Medina, Elyria, and Euclid.
That is going to be one tough conference. Because you have, like in football, those are the powerhouses for Northeast Ohio. It's going to be quite a challenge.
When we
It's
talk,
a big change.
yeah, and when we talk about it, we look at it the same way we do a classroom, high expectations.
Exactly.
So what we want is high expectations. That raises the expectations for everybody in the district. And we wanted to meet those expectations and meet them head on. So we're excited about that, and we're excited about the opportunity to showcase the district.
And it is funny that some of those were in our conferences before. Okay, any other questions or comments?
I have a quick question.
Sure.
In consideration, was the city size or school size, like, does any of that matters? Did they take that into consideration?
Yeah. Mr. Higgins, would you go to the podium, please, and just kind of talk a little bit about the process. I think the process is pretty unique, and some of the things that we're doing, I think that would be good.
Yeah, in November, we recognized through a newspaper article that this conference was being reassembled. In the early 90s, the conference kind of fell apart, which is when we joined the LEL. And Mentor retained their right to renew the conference at some point in the future. So Dr. Smilik made the call to their principal. We met for lunch on a couple occasions, and they invited us to a meeting in January. And some of the things that were definitely factors in being accepted was certainly the school size and the offerings of athletics, what we were able to offer, the number of teams that we were able to field on the different levels, and several other things. The travel, there are 4 west side teams that were already established with Brunswick, Strongsville, Medina, and Elyria, and they wanted to balance that out here. So we were up against one other school, and I don't remember what that school, Lorraine, which would have been the 5th west side school. And obviously, because of the balance, they chose us in the end. Certainly, the travels was a small consideration, but in so much that the LEL is in trouble right now. There are teams bailing on the LEL. It's better to get out in front of this so that you're not caught without a conference and then the independent, and then you're really traveling down to Columbus and other schools like that. There's no rivalries. There's no set schedules. So we definitely did not want to be caught in that situation where we had to find independent games. That would have been very difficult for us to overcome that.
One more other quick question, I'm sorry. Does any of these schools have sports that we don't have where this conference will allow us to look at the opportunity?
No, I think, which one? Lacrosse, I'm sorry. Lacrosse on the east side. Lacrosse and hockey. Elyria does have hockey, and several other
Is there a
sports.
possibility we get hockey back?
Oh, that'd be great.
Everything's a possibility.
The youth program would build up in the city if there was a high school program.
What usually happens is other schools, it's sometimes work, and you're probably aware of this, it can work as a combination. You just partner with another school and, all that. So there's all kinds of possibilities, but at least we can start to have the conversation.
Right.
If I could maybe just, I'm on the Recreation Commission for the city of Euclid, and Ben Perpar runs or manages the ice arena. And what we're noticing is there are a lot of high school hockey players who don't have enough teams to play on. They might want to try to play for, say, St. Ignatius, but don't make the team. And here are rather very good hockey players who are left without a high school to play with. And so there's been some talk about creating some sort of a club team that then schools would compete against each other as club. So that would really open up some opportunities for our Euclid kids, our Villa Angela St. Joe kids. So there's some talks about creating some a club league.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Those talks have been ongoing now for almost a year, but there's been some conversations with the athletic director at Villa Angela St. Joseph, Nate Zaborek, of maybe pooling our kids with their kids and trying to develop this club schedule between schools.
That'd be great.
Yeah, because I really think that the skill level has to be there. I know at one point when our teams were dwindling, they were trying to recruit our soccer players to play hockey, and if they weren't a strong skater, that could have been a pretty bad situation.
Yeah.
So I think this is a much better way of
It's a
trying
unique
to
sport.
resurrect the sport, is
For
to
sure.
get kids that are talented and able.
If they're playing a club sport, though, does that enable them to get attention from colleges for?
Well, sure. Anytime that you're playing, whether they have sports seasons, off season of the high school season, for example, AAU basketball, that's run through the spring, and a lot of coaches prefer going to see those AAU sports. Same with volleyball. They have a junior Olympic volleyball schedule, which is also through the spring. Of course, volleyball is in the fall. And I can't tell you how many college coaches go to those. So this would definitely, anytime kids are playing, gives them an opportunity to be seen from college coaches.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions or comments?
Well, you know,
Go ahead.
just a comment. I know that I had talked to just a few coaches, and there was initially some resistance to wanting to join the league. Not just one or two, but after some debate and some conversation, you know, our kids deserve something better. They deserve to be part of something that is not, I hate to see our students be stuck without a league to play in. And to be proactive and preemptive, I think this was a good move for us. And quite frankly, some of our kids who don't get to participate in sports until the 7th and 8th grade, I look at the multi-talented children that we have in our school district. Our students can compete not only with the Lake Erie League teams, but with any team, I think, because we have a good developmental program, even with them starting very late in the 7th grade. So this is an opportunity, I think, for coaches within our district to reach out to our community and look at ways that we could work with our recreation department to develop recreation league or farm programs or feeder programs. And I know that, Mr. Bell, my son had to write a persuasive essay. And his persuasive essay was that there should be 6th grade sports in Euclid. And I will tell you, it was one of the best essays I've ever wrote because he was so passionate about it. And at the very end, he said, if you believe the way I do, then you need to contact Superintendent Bell, and he listed your phone number and your email address.
Love that child.
But that's the whole point.
Yes.
This would be a good opportunity then if we want to compete with some of these more affluent communities, so to speak, who have opportunities to have their children in those communities compete at an earlier age, then this would be a good opportunity for us to maybe start something sooner. Or work in collaboratives or partnerships with our recreation program and our community leaders to start to build up some of those programs in the 4th, 5th, and 6th grade.
I agree, I couldn't agree with you more. I think that we have to be careful not getting our kids to want to rise to low expectations.
I agree.
So what we have to really do is make sure that we say, hey, okay, we can see that there's tough teams, but we're tough too, and we can be even tougher. And I think that that's to me, you know, the catalyst behind really trying to reach out. Don't look at where we are, look at where we want to be. And there's some model programs in there that we can emulate, and there's some things that we can take away. And so I just think it's an opportunity all across the board, even academically, to be able to partner and be able to do some things in a different way. So I look at it both athletically and academically of being able to do some things.
Well, and I know, I only have one sport that I can use as an example, but Coach Jason Cleaver has been partnering with Coach Jenkins at the middle school and looking at recruiting our 7th and 8th grade girls to get them not only to play fast pitch in middle school, but then I've recruited those girls from those teams to play in my recreation ball team. So now they're getting summer ball between 7th and 8th grade and summer ball between 8th and 9th grade. Those kids are now at the high school. We have 2 freshmen starting on the high school team, and they have ruled 2 teams in the Lake Erie League. They come off the field not even excited because it's an empty victory.
Yeah.
They've ruled these girls. So this Saturday they had a doubleheader against Wycliffe, which 5 or 6 of those girls play on travel teams. And we ruled them in the first inning, and we won by 5 runs. I mean, the first game, and we won by 5 runs in the second game. And I think Wycliffe had, so these are kids who are very talented, but Coach Cleaver did a very good job of recruiting those kids in the 7th and 8th grade and creating a team by the time they got to the high school. So those are the sorts of things that we want to foster and nurture and continue to grow. So I was a proud mama watching us beat Wycliffe twice.
Absolutely.
Well, the other thing too is, I remember when you were asking students what they wanted, and at the elementary level, they wanted to have some sport competitions and so forth. And I know we're my husband grew up in Western Ohio, and I watch his, I guess it'd be cousins, however many times over, but they're playing football at 5 years old, and, you know, they don't tackle at that age, but still, it's the idea is that they're learning those skills at a very young age. And so I don't know if I agree with 5-year-olds playing football, but at least it would be good for the kids at a younger age to get exposed to sports and the competition and the idea of being good sportsmen and everything else that comes along with playing sports.
Absolutely. I just think, lastly for me, I've always looked at it as the laboratory for the classroom, because that's really what it is. It's a lab. You go out and you're in that classroom and you're dealing with things in a theoretical manner, then you go out and play on the athletic, the ball field, or the court, or what have you, then you have to apply the same skill. You have to apply the same kinds of things in a different way, and that's what that's all about. And so if I'm going to compete at a higher level, what that then does is then help me then transform that same type of attitude back to the classroom, because I need to, if I can perform here, I can perform there.
Oh,
And so
I'm glad you bring that up.
I make that attachment.
When you talk about expectations, is there a grade point average requirement to participate in this new conference, Mr. Higley?
No, just the
The state
OHSS.
state standard, okay.
Or whatever the school district.
Okay, yeah.
That's a
Ohio
CF.
State Athletic Association, yeah.
Right.
Well, I would like to see that we might even want to raise that a little bit, because I'm a little disheartened that a 1.3 is good enough for a freshman to compete. I don't think that that's acceptable.
Yeah, that's, the state requires a minimum, certainly, the school and.
We could, but couldn't we make a difference, standard?
And let me just, and I can tell you, I know from the Ohio High School standpoint, because I was part when we did this, part of the rationale was, and I wasn't disagreeing, but I understood what we were doing, was the transition from 8th to 9th, giving kids an opportunity to at least get settled at the high school, and then they raise
Yeah, I
the
saw
GPA.
that.
That's what
yeah.
they were trying to do.
But still, it's 1.6.
I get it. I let off, but I disagree. But
Right,
I understood
okay.
what we were trying to do.
Okay. Did we vote?
We did not.
Okay, call the roll, please.
Mrs. Thomas?
Yes.
Mrs. Van Hoen?
Yes.
Mrs. De Angelis?
Yes.
Mrs. Lysy.
Yes.
Mrs. Sudar?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. And you have some info.
I do. I first just want to start off with, last week I had an opportunity along with Mr. Schweitzer and Mrs. Maroney and some other of our administrators to do some recruiting. I was in Toledo, Bowling Green, and Ohio State, and I just want to say that really was a great opportunity. That's really not what I wanted to talk about. What I really wanted to say was that Mrs. Maroney and Audrey Holtzman put together a packet that was second to none. All of the information I had was just, I thought, great. I was able to give the potential candidates a packet of all of the information. I think they really did a great job in representing Euclid, and for me it's about growth. I looked at where we were a year ago, and we talked about some changes we need to make and how we were going to present Euclid to the public and candidates and all of that. They went in, they got the vision, they did what they had to do, so I really appreciate the effort to do that. It made the job a lot easier, and we had quite a few candidates. I got so rambunctious that I just had people calling Mrs. Maroney because I didn't want to lose anybody. And I also want to thank the association for allowing us to be able to make the adjustment with bid day, because now we're in a position where we can look at these candidates a little bit differently, and we can do some things that we couldn't do in the past. So I appreciate their willingness to work with us on that and give us an opportunity to try to get the best quality candidates that we can. And I don't know if there's a greater work that we do than trying to hire the best teachers for our students. And so we had an opportunity to do that. So I just wanted to give them that kudos, because it really was well done. Everything was just well done, and the opportunity to do that for me was, I just really enjoyed that.
You want to tell them what schools you went to, colleges and universities?
Well, yeah, I was at University of Toledo on the 7th, and then Bowling Green State University on that Tuesday. John and I, Mr. Schweitzer and I were on Monday, and then on Thursday at Ohio State, Teach Ohio. And so it was, I don't have the number of students that we saw, but all three of them very well attended, very excited, young candidates ready to come in and blow our socks off. And we have, I don't know how many interviews, several that we're seeing. I think Sue is seeing some this week. They are driving in, and so we're already at the table getting people here. So it was really a great opportunity. I don't know if there's anything you want to add, John, if there's something you want to add.
No, I agree. The kids, well, I was just at Toledo, I was just the one day, and the students were well prepared, excited, eager. I mean, they were sharp. Several of them were getting their master's degree at the same time as their teaching degree, and they had degrees in, I talked to one in astrophysics, you know, that going to be teaching science. There was a list of them. These were sharp kids. So we're excited to get a few of them in here and see how they do in the second round.
Sue, anything you want to add?
In addition to those, we also attended the Northeast Ohio Teacher Education Day, which is noted at Akron, which encompasses Akron, Cleveland State, and a whole array of smaller colleges and universities. Kent State, John Carroll, Notre Dame, no, did we do Notre Dame? I don't know. But we had a lot, it was a team effort. We had a lot of administrators. I know Ms. Benton had a whole schedule of special ed candidates. We have a very large pool of special ed candidates right now. So we really are in a great position, which Ms. Benton will be the next 3 days, seeing many of them coming back. Because we do have several openings, and we've never been in a position in April to say we can see the candidates and we can offer jobs and hire them. So it really is. It's a great position to be in, and we need to hop on them now.
Yeah, and I just want to just add, there were, you know, so what were my anticipated outcomes? What did I want to get out of this? There were really two things that I want to get out of the recruiting. The first one was to ensure that the people that we talked to wanted to be here with our kids, understood the challenges of working in a diverse community, understanding the differences and the challenges that go that are behind that. And I had specific questions related to that because I want to make sure that they know what they're getting into and they understand what that means and what kind of work that really involves. Because sometimes, well, not sometimes, that book doesn't tell them that, and they need to understand that. They need to really get that. So that was my one of my takeaways. The second one for me was to, as I asked them questions, what I was able to do is to really help put together our professional development plan for next year. Because what I saw is I saw the gaps, and I was able to look at when I had conversations with some of these students and I would ask them specific questions about what they were getting out of their experience. Even though they were good candidates, there were still some gaps there. And so what I want to do is be proactive about how to then help them in orientation and make this thing fit, and not just give them a cookie cutter of something that we anticipate. I've actually got some data that reflects where there were some gaps in some things in discipline and content and that type of thing. So those two things for me, I have my own set of notes. You know, when I had an opportunity to really talk to them and really help them to understand the district, I really was able to get some things. So I think I got as much as they got because I really was able to have a really good conversation with them and really see what we need to do. So it was really a good experience. But I just want to make sure the information that I received and what I got, they set the table for us to make it very easy, and I appreciate that.
Can I just ask a question? Do the colleges and universities have some sort of venue for you all to talk about these things that you're seeing that may be weaknesses or things that the students graduating are lacking, or if they can, you know, provide more support or experiences or opportunities for them to
There's a few different venues that I'm connected to, and that is the NEOASPA, Northeast Ohio Association of School Personnel Administrators, that also has a sister organization with the universities. So at our local meetings as well as at the state meeting, we will talk about those things. You know, and a lot of the changes that the universities are making in their student teacher program is because of some of the things that we've brought to them, saying there's gaps here. We need you to be able to do this. We need to be able to reach out to the students in a different manner. So there is work being done in that.
Yeah, because I was hoping that you guys had some kind of input into curriculum, because you know firsthand what's necessary.
Yeah, I'm already in contact with Ohio State on a couple of things and being able to do that. Matter of fact, I talked to the gal today who runs that, and we talked about some things that are different. And in each one of those venues, Mrs. Sudar, because that's a really good question. Toledo and Bowling Green were different than Ohio State. Ohio State had 2 hours of time where students were able to go to all the different sites, but you were able to have a conversation before you even had the interview. So you could have a conversation about those kinds of things, and that's why I was able to get some of that information. Bowling Green and Toledo was a little bit more of the traditional, and they did something at lunch, but Ohio State had it, just the first 2 hours was just very informative. Kids came from all over, and they were looking, and it was almost like they were shopping, and you had an opportunity to have some conversation. So each of the formats is different, and then there's a survey at the end where we make comments about where we think there needs to be some changes, what kind of information we need, and we get that information. So.
And it was funny, when Kim Allen and I were at Ohio Northern, the first student that came to the table wasn't necessarily a licensure area that we were really looking, I mean, we may have an opening, but it wasn't an urgent need. And she asked me, she says, well, should I put them in the interview? I says, they came to our table first. I mean, at least that shows you they're interested in Euclid, to pick Euclid out of the whole field house to come to see if they can get an interview. So schedule them, we'll see how they are, and we may have an opening.
Just a couple other things. We communicated with all staff today regarding the Calamity Day, or the board contingency, just so the board's aware, that went out today. We will be communicating to the stakeholders in the community this week, and just to refresh the board's memory, what will occur is the official last day was supposed to be June 5th. The official last day now is June 9th for students, June 10th for teachers. And so we just bumped everything up 2 days, working through all of the communications that we have to have with everyone regarding what that means in the schedule. And so we're working through all that. But I just wanted the board to know that all of the families would be communicated with this week regarding that. We wanted to get the internal communication out first and then get it out to the public, and that went out this morning.
And that won't affect graduation?
No, and there's no effect to seniors. There's no effect to anything that's happening with seniors. They're out, they missed this one.
And the exam schedule just gets shifted by 2 days,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. The only change would be if we have a snow day tomorrow.
No, we're done.
Who knows? The third thing is just, I mentioned it in the board update, but I just wanted to refresh the board's memory that we do not have a work session next week, Monday the 21st, and due to some conflicts, and we're looking at, and we don't have a agenda yet, but once we do that, if that's the board's desire, we would have that on May the 5th, Monday, May 5th. So I wanted the board to be aware of that. And then the last thing I just wanted to say is to good luck to all of the spring sports teams. Go out and take care of your business and bring home championships. And Madam President, members of the board, that's my informal.